guys.
Good morning. It seems we need a couple of minutes.
Seconds.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I call this meeting of Lake Merritt Toastmasters Club 6440 to order. Before we proceed with the meeting, please silence your cell phones. I would like to ask everyone to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Our club mission is to provide a supportive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. With that said, please help me welcome our Toastmaster today, Erika B.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters, and no guests this morning. The theme for the day is hair. Is it a big business?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's find out this morning, but because I'm going to suggest to you some fun facts and interesting tidbits about hair. Did you know that the average woman, average being to the age of 81, spends about $50,000 in her lifetime on hair? Now, that's the average woman. I am going to share with you a few personal experiences to enlighten you on that, and you decide if it's actually $50,000. I get my hair done every Tuesday, so you will never see me at my hair best. As you can see today, I was at the beach this weekend. However, I'm not the only family member that gets their hair done every week. Our mama, who's 85, gets her hair done every Thursday. So I have a wonderful app called mint.com that categorizes everything that I spend. And I actually logged in to see how much I actually spend on my hair and the projection of where I'm going, and I don't think I spend a lot on my hair, honestly. Going once a week probably saves me a lot in product. But I'm definitely going to be in the over $100,000 lifetime on hair. I'll put that out there. Now let's talk about hair in 3 other different categories. My mother has lost her hair twice. She's lost her hair twice in battling cancer. She's fine today. She's a tough cookie. However, it helped me learn about the experience of loss of hair and how important it is for women. So in her retirement age, she is a wig rep. She's a wig rep, and she goes out and consults to people in hospitals or at home, or women that just burn their hair from too much hair product and they need to change out the look. So her motto is, when your hair won't, a wig will. And she does pretty well in her retirement age selling wigs. Now, according to the Huffington Post, black hair women are projected to spend $500 billion on the hair industry. That is a lot of money a year. A year. Okay, we're not talking about lifetime. We're talking about a year. And the funny thing is that 85% of the women in the poll said it was worth every penny. Every penny. Now, with a show of hands, how many of you think women spend more money on hair than men? Oh.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah? Well, the contrary belief, men are just as guilty. There are over 40 million bald men in the United States. 800 million a year is spent on transplants. 250 million a year is spent on hair pieces. I had one in the car and I left it. 60 million a year is spent on vitamins and supplements. There's a lot of numbers, so I have to kind of look down every now and then. But medical therapies, including Rogaine and similar brands, people spend an average of 225 million a year. Now, instead of interior design, I think I should invest in Rogaine. So throughout this meeting, hopefully this will enlighten you, and maybe you'll understand whenever my father greets one of us, he lightly just tugs on our hair to know if it's real or not, because he can't tell the difference. So with that, I would like to welcome our first speaker. Oh, my technical table, I can't read. Okay, so this morning we have our technical table, and it looks like there's someone missing. Am I going to have to do an addendum? Okay, so we have our counter, Carrie Bird.
Toastmaster. As counter, it is my function to listen for filler words such as but, and so, you know, and other audible pauses. And I will be noting if members perform double clutches, this means. And finally, I will also include which things might be distracting, such as lip smacks. I'll give my report at the end of the meeting. All infractions are fine.
Okay.
Thank you, Carrie. Now, graciously stepping in is our timer, Paul Walsh. Thank you, Paul.
Good morning. I will be your timer for the day. I will be responsible for helping the Toastmaster keep the meeting on time. And I believe all the speakers are 5 to 7 minutes. Oh, no.
There's always me.
There's one speaker that is 7 to 9 minutes.
There's if you're 5 to 7, you'll get the green at 5, the yellow at 6, and the red at 7. And for Diane, the green at 7, the yellow at 8, and the red at 9. Table topics will have 1 minute. The green at, what is it for the table topics? 30 seconds, 45, and then 1 minute. And for the evaluators, 2 to 3 minutes. The green at 2, the yellow at 2.5, and the red at 3.
Thank you. Now, in learning these words, I think that we can excuse Paul for any grammatical errors or any pauses. Can we say parlay? Is that a word that means your pardon? Parlay? Parlay, he's parlay. Rich, feel free to step in discreetly at any time, or we can leave it as is. And then last but not least, our grammarian, Jorge Frigel.
Good morning, Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. Today, my role as a grammarian is to make note of any grammatical errors or inconsistencies for everybody. Also be tracking who uses the word of the day, which today is surfeit. Surfeit. But it's a noun meaning an excessive amount of something, such as Panera has a surfeit of menu options available to patrons, or a verb meaning cause to desire no more of something as a result of having it consumed or done to excess. An example, I was surfeited with food after the barbecue. 25 cents for those who do not use the word of the day.
Thank you. So there's going to be a lot of surfeit comments about hair, since the theme of the day is hair, big business. However, I didn't come to this theme on my own. It's actually on the National Calendar Register as Brazilian Blowout Day. If you don't know what a Brazilian blowout is, I do it once a year. It costs about $300. and it takes about 2 to 3 hours of time, but it will save you a lifetime of having to blow dry your hair, and it was developed by Brazilians. So it's a chemical process to smooth out and put the keratin back in your hair. So there you go, it's National Brazilian Blowout Day. I would like to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Mike Hughes, speaking from project number 2, Organize Your Speech, with the title, After the Smoke Clears.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning. Let's move this room. All right. After the smoke clears. Now, what I'm talking about is making 3 distinct points. The first point I want to cover is life, how fast it comes at you. The second point I want to cover is what happens when trauma is introduced in that life, things you don't plan for. And third, I'm going to talk about is the recovery after the trauma. Early childhood events, some things we think about that are memorable, that you think about when it comes to being a kid, your first soccer goal, losing your first tooth. These things you're like, remember when I lost that? You get a little bit older, life events come at you. You start to plan for things. Graduating college, the financial burden of that. Then you meet your sweetheart. After you meet your sweetheart, what do? You get married. A lot of good fun times. Everyone thinks about, let's have a baby. Good idea. You get the perfect house. Then everyone has their nuclear family. But then you pause for a second. What about the things you can't plan for? What about things that come at you all of a sudden? You hear a squawk over the radio. Something bad's about to happen. You're not quite sure what it is. You're sitting there wondering, what's going to happen? You turn on the news. What's going on? Natural disaster in your area. Major flood. Takes your entire paradigm, flips it upside down. You can't do anything about it. Whole life seems like it's washed away. Then, or a hurricane, tornado, earthquake. Some drastic thing where it takes your life, shakes it up like a puzzle box, and throws it all to the floor. How do you recover from that? Or something a little bit closer to home? Attacks happen in the United States all the time. You can't prepare for them. You wonder, how do we come back from this? Lives lost, left and right. Chaos, screaming. Loved ones, where are they at? I don't know if they're okay. I know you guys know people who are here. Most of us do. It affects us greatly. But then, what happens when it gets closer to home? It gets a little bit more real. Child abuse, domestic violence. Sometimes you come across car accidents. You lose loved ones. Things happen in life that you just can't prepare for. War, deployments, loss of limb, significant loss to cancer, like you spoke of earlier. How do we come back from these things? We think life, it couldn't get any worse. But the truth is it does. It can. Approximately 61% of men and 51% of men in the United States suffer a traumatic event in their life. But the truth is, what they wonder is, why don't they develop post-traumatic stress? So researchers look into this and say, how is this? How is it that more than half the population can go through a traumatic event, but they all do not develop post-traumatic stress disorder? Now, without getting into the details and the weeds of what post-traumatic stress disorder, think of it as an anxiety disorder. That feeling, increased heart rate, shakes, just something happens where you remember that event. But just understand that it's going to get better in the end. What happens when it gets better? You take a look at your life and you wonder, you don't wonder. You start having changes in priorities and what's important in life. You start to look at things a little bit differently. Develop new interests and opportunities. Life's starting to turn around for you. You increase perception and confidence and self-reliance. Acceptance of one's vulnerabilities. That's a huge one that you didn't have before. You start to think, why? Why is this happening? Why is everything getting better all of a sudden? And there's no explanation as to why. How can this happen? Increase compassion and empathy for others. You start to hug your kids just a little bit more. Love your spouse. Love your family just a little bit more. Great appreciation for one's own existence, because when it's been almost taken from you, you look at it from a different lens. Spirituality goes up. Why is that? Great appreciation for life. How do they do this? The benefit is this happens typically naturally. This happens naturally. You think, man, it couldn't get any worse, but yet it's always somehow looked at differently through different lenses. Researchers call this post-traumatic growth. But it happens naturally. That's the benefit. So when you see someone who's just gone through probably the worst point in their life, and you say, it's going to get better. Usually it does. This is one example. A little backstory on him. Russell Redenbaugh is a 16-year-old boy building a model rocket when the rocket exploded in his hands. Lost both of his eyes and the use of his hands. But he told himself, you know what? Actually, I had the trauma of blood loss that almost took his life. He declared that I would not be dependent, that I would not be poor, that I would not live at home, that I would live in a sighted world doing sighted things. He took this horrible incident and turned it. Graduated from the University of Utah, first in his class, as a blind man. Applied to Harvard, but was denied because blind people can't make it. That's kind of funny because no one's ever done it before, so how would you know? So, fifth in his class, or in school, got his MBA. Senator Bob Dole appointed the Commission on Civil Rights. Learned jiu-jitsu, went to Brazil to compete in the seniors masters. Now imagine jiu-jitsu takes a lot of handwork. He won 3 gold medals. This is an example of what can happen if you take your traumatic incident, learn from it, and say, you know what, I'm going to go achieve life for what it really is. In closing, I want you to think about this one thing. They always say, it's always darkest right before the dawn. But think about that as an opportunity to have the brightest light shine through. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Diane M, speaking from the Competent Communicator Manual, Project 6, Vocal Variety, in the blink of an eye. Nicholas Sparks once said, in the blink of an eye, something happens by chance. When you least expect it, it sets you on a course that you never planned, into a future you never imagined. Our next guest's real-life blink of an eye experience was not only awe-inspiring, but ultimately life-changing. Please welcome Toastmaster Diane M as she presents in the blink of an eye.
a.m. in the morning, and it was quiet, it was calm, and I awoke with the certainty that everything was going to be okay. I walked slowly toward the telephone in the kitchen, where I knew that there was going to be a call that was forthcoming. And I waited 1, 2, maybe 3 minutes. Suddenly, I picked up the telephone as it rang, beginning of its first ring. I should have recoiled at the sound of the nurse's voice, but I didn't. I should have recoiled at the news she was going to bring, but I didn't. I already knew. Miss Manikowski, she said, this is Nurse Smith at Florida Hospital. I'm calling to, I already know. I said, I already know that John has died. She said, did somebody already call you? And I said, no. She goes, then how did you know? I said, I just already knew. Well, can you tell me what time he died exactly? And she said, exactly 1:05 p.m. 1:05 a.m. he was called. I'm so very sorry. I thanked her and I said, I would be down, would be getting ready, I'd be down in just a few minutes. Don't move, John, because I wanted to see him. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. It was then that I started thinking about the day and how confusing and draining it had been for everybody. And although my kids and I had seen their father get progressively weaker and closer to death, it hit us all that day when I brought all my kids down to the hospital and I let them have a few moments individually with their father to say whatever they wanted to say, their last thoughts, their last anything that they wanted to do, and to tell him that they loved him. It had been overwhelming for all of us, but especially for my 9-year-old son, Chris, who must have known somehow that this was going to be the last time he ever saw his father. Because when we got home, there was a surfeit of screaming, destruction, and uncontrollable fits of rage from him. He broke everything in his room. He broke his window. He put a hole through the wall. He was uncontrollable. I'd given him some feather pillows to get out his rage. And he had hit them until there was not one feather left. Everything was scattered throughout his room, throughout the entire upstairs. He had begun to hurt himself, and I had to run and chase him and lay down on top of him and hold him down until I could calm him to keep him from hurting himself. He was finally asleep, and now his nightmare had come to pass. So I walked upstairs to check on the kids. Christopher had gone into Alex's room and slept in his bed since his room was totally destroyed. Chris's twin sister Jenna was in her room, and Alex had stayed out in the family room upstairs with me and was laying on the floor with the comforter over him. As I looked upon Alex, I felt this sudden chill and a comfortable feeling surrounding me, and I got the faint odor of John's cologne. And I knew that he was there. I sensed another presence that was standing out on the side. And suddenly I saw this bright light surround Alex. And I knew that John was there to say goodbye to him, to give him a gift, because it had been so difficult. When the light left, I was so terrified. I hope he went to see Chris. I hope. I've got to make sure that he went to see Chris. He can't leave without that because Chris was devastated. I ran into Chris's room and I woke Chris up. And I said, Chris, was your father, did your father come? And he said, yes, Mom. He goes, Dad was just here. And I said, what did he say? And he said, don't be mad and don't be sad. I love you and I'm going to heaven to be with God. He said that there was another figure with him, a man with a beard that was thin with a flowing robe. Then I ran into Jenna's room and I asked Jenna, I woke her up because I didn't want her to miss out. I asked her, did Daddy come to see you? And she just woke up both of them like it was no big deal. Yes. And I said, what did he say? And he said, don't be sad. I love you and I'm going up to heaven to be with God. Exactly the same. Then I ran out to Alex and he woke up on his own startled and he said, Mommy, Daddy was just here. I said, what did he say? He said, I love you very, 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 very much. Now Alex is 6, so that's how he interpreted it, I guess. He goes, don't be sad. He said he's going up to heaven to be with Jesus. I knew then that there was a miracle that had happened and a little bit of peace that had been given to my kids, however short-lived that might be. But that wasn't the last of the miracles that night. I took a quick shower, I was blowing my hair, and I was suddenly wrenched from the room, and I found myself sitting about 10 feet up in the air, high above, just floating slowly backwards. Below me, I saw this beautiful pathway of beautiful bright light, billowing like clouds, almost like that feel. On either side of this pathway were tens of thousands of little figures, little heads, dressed in dark peasant-like clothes. And they were squeezing and pushing together and pushing against this pathway, trying to get there, but they could never reach it. They just were against it and they couldn't get up. And I saw John walking with this figure, this thin man, flowing robes and a long beard. They were totally oblivious to me, that I was even there. And I'm watching them and they're walking along the path, just talking with one another. It seemed like a really long time. And then they slowly started to pass me. And as they started to pass me, I whirled around just in time to see the blur of them shooting like a skeet ball down the pathway to the end where there was a spiral in the same material. And I saw them go whoosh right up to the top, and they disappeared. Suddenly I knew I was at the top of the spiral. And I was still up above looking down. And there was the same beautiful, beautiful, breathtaking light. John was standing about like me in front of a podium and looking forward. And I suddenly noticed this beautiful cloud, this beautiful pink, breathtakingly beautiful cloud that was coming into the shore, slowly. And I thought, wow. And as it came closer and closer and closer, it turned to evil. And I was terror-stricken. And I was devastated. I had total sorrow, total despair. And just as that happened, I noticed a whirl of a ball spinning toward me, of whirling lights that were coming closer in grandeur toward the shore. And they exploded into tens of thousands of beautiful lights, with one light bigger, brighter, and more beautiful than any other. And then I noticed, even though I was completely not part of this, and sitting aback, I noticed that John was choosing. And I saw him gaze over to the pink. And I got terrified. And I thought, oh no, John, I knew he couldn't hear me, but I'm screaming, no, no, don't pick that, no! And then he turned his head and he gazed at the light. And just as he did that, he was whisked into the middle of the lights. They swirled again, and poof, everything was gone. And I was standing in the middle of a quiet and a peace. And in front of me was this huge, gentle face with one eye, staring at me, looking into my eyes. I was trembling until I finally got the courage to look back. When I looked into these eyes, I saw pure knowledge and wisdom and truth and love and eternal peace. And I knew right then and there that no matter what happened, everything was going to be all right. I suddenly understood the plan for us. I was given a glimpse of God. I began to feel this great yearning in my soul for what I beheld, and I wanted to stay there forever. I didn't want to go. But then, with the blink of an eye, just as suddenly as he had appeared, he was gone, and I was back blow drying my hair. Talk about post-traumatic stress disorder. So I've been given a great gift to know that there's something more beautiful than anyone could ever imagine here on earth. A comfort like a mother swaddling her infant child. A peace that I experienced like the calm after a violent storm. But with this gift there was also a price. And the price was responsibility. Because now I knew what was to come. And I no longer had to have faith. Now I was responsible for all my actions and all my choices, and I knew I always had to be true to myself and my principles, no matter how unpopular. No more excuses for deviating from what was moral and right. But it was my choice, and I knew it. I was at a crossroads in my life, just as Robert Frost's poem, The Road Not Taken. Two roads diverged in the woods, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. In the blink of an eye, your life could change. You could experience a number of devastations, or in the blink of an eye, you could experience incalculable wonders. Today, you could be at the crossroad. Listen and choose your path wisely and make a difference. Thank you, Madam President. I was joking.
I would next like to introduce our table topics master, Cascades.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. The purpose of the table topic is to call upon a member in the group who will be listening. You don't know your name, you will listen to a question. At the end of that question, I will call a name and you have to respond in 1 minute to the question. As you will see, I do not have a suffix of here. It's not there. But I can tell you, if you go back maybe 25 years ago and look at my African pictures, I had an afro, you know? I did, I'll show you a picture someday. When did you have an experience in the hair business, a show business? It may not have been an afro, it may not have been spending, you know, $50,000 or $100,000. When did you have an experience of hair business that you really, really think that was the best use of your money? Rick Master. When did you really have a great hair big business with the hair that you have on your head? When did you really have a show off?
My hair?
Yes, sir.
Well, I would have to say, my current haircut, you know, is very high maintenance. I have to get it done all the time, but the investment would have, I really don't even know how to answer this question again. I think that's for the first time in my life it made me speechless.
Thank you. Rich, earlier I mentioned the money invested in hair and what big business it is for both men and women. So right there, you kind of helped me remember that every week when I'm getting my hair done, there are the same men going in at the same time. I am not alone. I would next like to introduce our general evaluator to tell us their thoughts and make introductions to our evaluators during this meeting. My time is up, ladies and gentlemen. Ernst.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and especially Erika, thanks for choosing the hair day. I will ask my wife if I can go to Brazil by myself. Check it out. When I was very young, I had a surfeit of hair. In fact, it's going all the way down here. And I was looking at some of the pictures about several months ago. I just wondered, how in the world can you wear a hairdo like this? But anyways, hair today, gone tomorrow. That's how it's. As the general evaluator is one of the most important roles because they're supposed to critique and explain how things were supposed to be. As a first-time general evaluator like me, I encourage all the veterans to give me some feedback because this is my first time and I will give it a good college try, so to speak. I will call now on the evaluators to evaluate speech number 1, which is Alexandra Balger, evaluating Mike Hughes' speech.
Thank you. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially Mike. Mike, I'm speechless myself. And quite honest, your speech brought a surfeit of different emotions, especially with the visual aids. Mike, I'm speechless because I couldn't believe this is your second project. You look, in my opinion, someone has been probably half of the book. You show confidence. Your speech was very well organized. I clearly saw the opening, the body, and the conclusion. If I have to say something for you to improve, don't get me wrong, because in my opinion, like I said before, you had an amazing speech. But I want for you to take this speech to the next level. And the observation that I would like to do, this was a very touching subject with graphic, obviously part of your visual aid. And I wanted for you to use more pauses, to use your emotions. I love the fact that you walk and you feel free in the space and you connected with us, but I wanted to see more emotions, more personal stories. And that's the only thing that I will suggest for you to implement next time. I want to suggest as well, this is nothing bad, actually it's good, because your speech, in my opinion, covered different topics of this manual, and probably you can reuse it again and take it to the next level, probably project number 7, which is researcher topic. That would be a very, very good match for that topic, for that speech as well, get comfortable with visual aids. Either or, I would like to see it again. And I would like for you to use more personal stories, your emotions, and I just want to say that I'm very looking forward to hearing the next one. You did a fantastic job, Michael.
Evaluating speaker number 2, Diane M, distinguished Toastmaster, Master Toastmaster, no?
Toastmaster Gold.
Master Gold, I'm sorry. Steve Morgan.
Well, we certainly began with a chill, though you left us with a good, comfortable feeling in the blink of an eye. Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, our guest, and particularly Diane. What I found most striking and what I enjoyed most probably out of this particular speech was you began with and had many bits of dialogue going through. Something that many people do not do, but adding dialogue, giving us characters, that is what will make a speech memorable. And your dialogue with the nurse, with your kids, and the various other parts within your speech allowed us to see parts of you as well as the others, and that was what I particularly enjoyed out of that. I will have to tell you, you have a surfeit of subtleties. You love that word, and you used it many times, and in many cases you didn't need it at all. And especially since you were talking about in the blink of an eye, there were many other opportunities of other words that could have been used, especially in those cases. The
Title, very interesting choice, and I love the way it played through. This is the vocal variety project. The particular aspect is dealing with pitch, going high or going low. Pace, where you can speak really fast or occasionally slow down. And sometimes put in the pauses. The key is that anytime you change any of those dynamics, you're bringing attention to what you're saying at that point in time. What I would suggest is a lot more of those things. You have a tendency to speak very fast and not many pauses. So if there was something in there you wanted to emphasize, we may have missed it because there was no obvious way for it to stand out. Therefore, I would suggest think in terms of pace and pause and how you can change things up. What that may end up meaning is that you'll have to do one of the things that I also do not like doing that much, rehearsing. And the other part where I noticed, since you seem to be mostly working straight from the text, and I think you were trying to read word for word, and at least at first it might have been, to keep in mind is that we do tend to, of course, speak differently than we write. The rehearsal, though, will help you find those places at times when you want to make those emphases, then you want to be prepared, you know that you're coming up to it, and therefore you know what's coming and you're ready. When you're doing things off the cuff, you don't always know, and that's where you can make those impacts. And I know it feels uncomfortable if you're not used to doing it, but it's amazing the difference it'll make. The topic choice, I love that, although it's very interesting, you'll probably have lots of different reactions to it at various times. All topics are acceptable, and I'm happy to see topics, even those I don't like, being presented, and I love seeing ones that are very interesting and insightful, so I enjoyed that very much. You gave us a great gift. I've yet to see what the price is, but certainly I hope that we'll be seeing another one again very soon.
I'd like to now get the reports from the technical table, starting out with Jorge, speaking about Primarian, right?
Yeah, correct. Master Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. My report for today, those who use the word of the day. So far I have Erika, Diane, Gus, Ernst, Alexandra, and Stephen. For language, things that I like, different sentences and use of the English language that I liked, Mike, when you said, take your life like a puzzle box and throw it all over the floor. Thought that was good. And I didn't catch all of the last one, but it's always darkest before the dawn. Take a moment to let the light shine through. Then Diane, when you said shooting like a ball, like a ski ball down the pathway, and comfort like a mother swaddling her infant child. You had a lot of other descriptive language as well. And then Ernst, I like that, hair today, gone tomorrow. That's my report for today. Thank you.
I'd like to now have Paul Walsh, our timer, who is sitting in gracefully.
Thank you, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Time today, Mike Hughes went at 5 to 7. He took 7 minutes and 12 seconds. Diane, 7 to 9. She took 10 minutes and 41 seconds. On the table topics, Rich at 20 seconds.
Should awards.
And Alexandra, 2 minutes and 5 seconds. And Stephen at 3 minutes and 13 seconds. And I just want to throw in, related to the hair, that due to my wife's surfeit of hair, she definitely spends a proportional amount on her hair because of the extra hair, and I'm coming in with my $5 haircut down the road.
Evens it out.
And she tricked me into that one time before our wedding, going to this fancy place at Winter Park, and then convincing me that due to her not feeling good without going to that place, that she's gone there ever since for 10 years. So.
Carrie Berg, our accountant.
General Evaluator, Alexandra, I had 3 ahs. Erika, 2 ahs, 1 gut. Jorge, 1 gut, 1 double clutch. Mike, 1 pause, 1 double clutch. Diane, 1 ah, 3 ands, 1 tongue click, 1 pause, and 7 double clutches. Ernst, 1 ah. Rich, one odd, two ums, and one double punch.
The general evaluation of the meeting we had today, everything was on time. We started on time. Thank you very much. The room was perfectly set up. The agenda was passed out, also on time. I would have liked to maybe have it in color. We had some last minute changes to the technical table. Thank you for Paul for stepping in. I guess Rick, you were supposed to be the time. Right? So,
I was
helps to be on
late,
time.
not on time.
A late timer.
The improvements needed, make sure that the nameplates are properly, especially on technical table, the grammarian wasn't in the right place, I guess because we have the changes. When you are at the lectern and you're introducing someone, please stand here, don't move to the side and wait until somebody, always never leave the lectern empty, wait until the people come. It happened once, one or two times. And I think Diane, you said thank you after the speech, and that's one thing we don't do, say thank you in the speech. Other than that, it was a great meeting, and I'll call on the president for the closing remarks. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your evaluation because it's just going to help us progress more. I would like to invite our guest, our second visit, Suzalyn, Michelle, Michael.
Good name.
To stand up and give us your thoughts on the meeting.
Okay, it's intimidating being the only guest.
I got one over here.
This is very interesting. I think it's going to help me a lot, and I put myself in your place because when you were speaking, I was trying to see if I was the one who had, a loved one die. How would I, speak? Would I be able to even speak with all the surface? So I'm just trying to put myself in everyone who's speaking, how I would do it, and try to learn from the evaluations and everything. So I'm enjoying this so far. I'll definitely be back.
Coming back?
Yeah.
Very well said. Well, two things in business. First, we have a contest.
Yes.
We have a contest. We have a contest, and we need contestants. I have my contest chair, Alexandra, contest master, Gus Davies. I have our chief judge, Diane Menikowski.
I'm sorry?
Chief Judge.
Chief judge. And we need some parts to make this happen. Now,
We have
Contestants.
contestants.
it is a evaluation contest and humorous speech. I was just contest master at the Seminole Club in Sanford. It was very interesting. And I definitely feel very confident that anyone can do this. All they have to do is share a piece of them, speak from the heart so you're not reading from notes. And who's up for the challenge?
I'm doing it.
Contest.
One more.
Erika, I want to mention something that thank you, Stephen, to bring to everybody's attention is no minimum requirements. No minimum
You paid
speech.
your
So,
dues.
right, but no minimum speeches.
No minimum speeches.
What do you mean, no minimum?
No
Well,
minimum.
Time?
Yes, no, you shouldn't have done.
Rich,
Rich can't.
you can do an evaluation.
Rich is a test.
He's a test speaker.
He can still be an
Yeah,
evaluation
If he intends
contest.
to stay as test speaker, he can, but he could still do humorous.
Do you want to do it?
Can I participate as an evaluator? I thought I was helping in the meeting. I'm not helping in the meeting.
No,
I can do that.
You're not an official.
If you're gonna be a contestant, you won't be a functionary, then
Yeah.
maybe you'll be functionary, we need contestants.
Yeah, you do.
Why not?
And just an FYI,
I can do the evaluation contest.
can you?
Yeah,
Okay.
So
I can be a
evaluation,
contestant in the evaluation.
how many do we need?
So can we
As
tell
many as
jokes?
want to.
Yes,
How many?
No, it's
You can tell
not.
jokes in the humorous
Oh, my
speech, that was
goodness, I know.
hilarious,
Come on,
I
man.
enjoyed those very
It's
much.
it's a story, a real speech. It's not just one-liners. But Rich said he'll do the
Humorous speech?
as well.
Can I use your
I'm
pen?
hilarious.
You want to do that instead of the test speech or in addition?
Well, the test speech is for the evaluation contest, and then can he participate in the humorous?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I haven't
let me
seen
write
that,
that
but that would be
down.
interesting.
I want to see two
Humorous
speeches.
contestant will be
I
Rich,
love it. You go for it.
early.
Yes, I'll be
You
early.
have to be here at 7?
No.
6:30.
6:30.
Yes.
All right.
6:30.
Yeah.
Which you better plan on 6.
Evaluation contest.
We need two, right? Two, minimum two or
What I'll
more
do,
for the contestants.
because I drive a teenager to high school every morning, I'll ask him to spend the night at
Ernst.
his grandma's, which is
Go
not far.
ahead and contest.
And I have
Yes,
under
yes,
evaluation
next week.
contest, Stephen Morgan.
You could do an evaluator.
Stephen Morgan.
It's evaluators contest.
For both, right,
Come on,
Stephen?
you're good
Yes.
evaluating.
Ernst, evaluation.
Yeah, come on, Ernst.
I'm a timer.
Ernst.
Carrie Bird.
Bring your talents.
Ballot counter,
Functionaries, but.
Paul?
We'll have to get some from
No,
the
Paul's
lab.
speaking, aren't you
Oh,
speaking?
the timers and ballot counters, the rest, the other people are taken care of. They just
They're
have-
taken care of?
Well,
Okay.
Yeah.
the other organizers are taking care of those, but we just need.
Yeah,
All right, so right
Jeff
now we
will
have
take care of it.
Rich Massa and Stephen Morgan for humorous contest, and evaluation contest, Stephen and myself.
Awesome.
Jorge, what's Jorge?
Go ahead,
Evaluation, come on, for a speech.
Both.
He can't be a functionary.
We don't wanna push it, it's whatever you feel.
We need a functionary.
But we cannot force it for
You don't need functionaries.
If you wanna do it.
We cannot
Yeah,
force
just find it, I'll find some.
Okay, 8:21, yes or no? Take it or leave it.
Functionaries.
Going once, going twice.
You can decide right before we start.
Which
too.
one? Which
All
one?
of the
Okay,
functionaries
sorry.
speak.
Okay, let's stay focused. Which one would you like to participate?
I'll do both.
Both.
Yeah, yeah.
I definitely need it.
Yes, we
Ernst, what you doing?
Yes.
I really can't.
I'll do
I'm good at
both.
All right,
speech.
fantastic. Anything else?
Speech
Oh, Bert.
with Roman.
Okay, I'll shove it in front of me.
Is it
Sergeant
funny?
in arms.
Don't do this.
No.
All right, let me, I gotta figure things out.
Diane, if I miss someone who has a role, I don't have anything else filled out, so I'm gonna pass this
I'm
around.
not gonna tell her what, who's doing what.
Oh, but certain parts you can't announce. Any-
No.
No, they're not on there,
Okay,
They're
there's
not on
certain
there.
parts of
The
the
judges aren't.
contest that no one can know who is the person,
the judges.
the judges.
I'm not the judge, I'm like a timer and.
We'll know who the timers are.
I will tell you what you are, okay?
She will tell you.
I think you can pull that off. A question maybe for Stephanie and Stevie. If we have any dignitaries, I'm the contest.
You'll know, you'll
Okay.
know,
We'll tell you.
We'll let you know.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and the order, if, you're not gonna have a bunch of district governors and stuff in there, so that order on there, you don't have to worry about.
All right.
You have one or two.
Thank you.
We'll let you know.
Suzalyn?
Suzalyn.
Suzalyn,
Yeah.
I encourage you to visit us and enjoy
See the
this contest. It's a rarity. We do one a year, two a
Twice.
year,
Twice.
two a year.
Right.
And it'll be very interesting to see, and those that are courageous enough to partake, it can be very rewarding. We have to twist a few arms to make it happen, but it is very important. I also want to make a note on the following week. Do we know who the Toastmaster is for the following week?
No, that's why I wanted to pass it around.
That's the thing
Or
was
people
supposed
to
to be
sign up
passed
on
around
easy.
for next
I'll do it.
Okay, let me pass this around
Okay.
for the
I'll
following
do
week.
Toastmaster.
If you could do that, that would be fantastic. 2 other notes of business, they have a new manager. First day is tomorrow. So I'm gonna be introducing myself tomorrow morning. We have a officers meeting at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. I will not go beyond 10 o'clock, so you will not be here, Carrie, okay? I also wanna make note that in order to raise funds, it was suggested to have a raffle contest, 50-50, and with a show of hands, if I can get those that think it's a good idea, I will buy the tickets. They get split in half, and at the end of the meeting, during the contest, at the end of the contest,
I've got-
We split
I've got
the cost.
tickets.
You
I've
have
got
some,
tickets to the
with a show of hands, because of our funds, it's very expensive to have this room. It would help beef up, you know, the kitty, the bank, if we did something like that. Otherwise, we could do it in other ways. But with a show of hands, how many think it would be a positive thing and encourage that and say aye by raising your hands? All right, we'll have a 50-50 contest next week, so bring some moolah. All right. Any other comments, suggestions?
Credit cards.
You visited a club for a contest, how did that go? Tell us.
I
Because
visited.
we have one tomorrow.
Yeah.
I did. I visited the club in Sanford, and I must say it was very refreshing to see Toastmasters set up in a different environment. They do not have food every week, and in this case, it was done in kind of like a potluck setting, and I enjoyed meeting other Toastmasters. I did feel that in the room there was a lot of experience, more than myself in most cases. I felt like the overall the group had a lot of distinguished Toastmasters in the audience. It was very interesting in the formalities of the contest. It was taken very seriously. I had an entire script to read from, so our contest master, if you need a copy of that script, I gave one to. Perfect.
You actually had an abbreviated script. He's got the full script.
Oh my goodness, well
Yeah.
that was enough. So be prepared, if you haven't been to a contest before, that we will be here as early as 6:30 if you're involved in the contest, and our meeting will still end at 8:30, is that correct? Yes, so it will be a 2-hour commitment.
The gavel down will probably be at 7. We need to.
Gavel down is that.
Gavel down, yeah.
Functionaries need to be here at 6:30 for the meeting.
But the meeting's.
Meeting starts at 7.
Whoever is just gonna watch.
Next week, just next week.
And every week, and no matter where I go, I feel like every time I think that I joined this club to become a better speaker, I actually find that I joined this club to enrich what I know, what culture experiences I have. For example, how many of you are gonna maybe walk down the hair product aisle or look at the men and wonder, how many of them are spending this amount of money on their hair? You know, or sharing personal experiences and living through someone that may have gone through an experience that we don't know. So I feel like it makes us a more overall rounded person, and visiting the other club, it just added to my library of experiences. So I was very grateful, and I encourage you all that if you have